What's going on? Mr. Tony's Hip Hop School. Please like and subscribe. This is all about old school hip hop. Yes, old school hip hop. All are welcome. So like a knowledge. It's kind of like going back in time when hip hop was really great, and also it's a form for my era. I wouldn't say my age group, but at least my era, at least people that are aware of a lot of the hip hop artists back in the day. I think the greatest era of hip hop is definitely 86 to 94. It was even greater in 88 to 92 to narrow it down a little bit. Then there were pockets of greatness in the early 2000s. Yes, it was. And definitely in the mid 80s, probably early to mid 80s. Because, of course, you got Run DMC. Run DMC really, in my opinion, should be up there with the greatest rap groups of all time. I've said in another video that Wu-Tang Clan is the greatest hip-hop group of all time, hands down. The Tribe Called Quest are a close second, but wanted to get into a quick fact. I just read about it not too long ago that I didn't know that the West Coast hip-hop sold more albums than the East Coast back in the 90s. Back around the time of the East Coast, West Coast beef. And that was kind of mind-boggling, but it wasn't surprising only because I think really they sold more because of Suge Knight. I think it was because of Death Row Records. I think it was because of that that aura, that, just a bunch of thugs over there running a music label, and and also you had Dre, Snoop, Tupac. I mean, I guess it was not too surprising. I mean, they just had way more, just that gangster stuff. I think that did it. I think that was helped sold a lot of records. Of course, my heart is always with the East Coast, and always thought that hip hop started on the East Coast, and we had a whole lot more. I think it was better rappers and DJs and producers. Yes, Dre. As much as I hate to say it, but I mean, I like Dre, but he's the greatest. He's the greatest producer of all time. I used to always say he's not, but I mean, he was just a little more versatile than most. He had hardcore beats. He had dance stuff. He had head bobbing shit. You could bob your head in the car. I mean, he was pretty versatile. I got to give it to him. And the way he would sample a lot of George Clinton's music and make it into something that was great. I can say the same about Premier. I can say the same about Pete Rock. I can say the same about Large Professor. I mean, everybody had their own style. I mean, one of my favorite producers of all time, he's definitely on my list, is Diamond D. And that's another video I'm going to do about producers that were great at rhyming as well. Pete Rock rhymed and produced. Kanye West rhymed and produced. Even though Kanye West is outside the era that I'm talking about. But Diamond D was another one that nobody ever talks about. And that's what this channel is about. Unsung hip-hop artists, unsung, and people that just are under the blankets. Nobody ever talks about them. Diamond D has a body of work that started all the way back to the early 90s. I first heard of Diamond D in 92. And I loved a lot of his music, from The Best Kept Secret. I mean, I can go on and on. That's That Shit. It's a lot of stuff he made that I like. He had a 1997 album that I really didn't even know about till recently because of back then it was because of the East Coast, West Coast shit. But he had an album, I can't remember the name of the album. I just know it was out in 97. And he had a couple of songs on there, man. He had this one joint called Flowing, man. That shit. Hey, Diamond D, if you ever watch this video, why did you make that song so damn short? You should have made that shit like 5 minutes. That shit was like 2 minutes and some change. I'm like, yo, that song was so... I love that song. And, but anyway, yeah, the West Coast artists, labels, whatever, you might as well just say Death Row. I mean, that's not surprising because of all the stuff that was going on with them. So, of course, you know, it's going to make people go out and buy records, you know. But there's a lot of talent on the West Coast, and I have to admit, it was a lot of people that I liked from over there, man. Above the Law, Ice Cube, Tim Dog. I even like Ice-T. Only a few of his songs though. I really thought Ice-T was kind of corny, but some of his songs I did like. You know, 6 in the Morning is probably my favorite Ice-T song. I mean, he had some songs that I like, but I like Ice-T because he's a real dude. You know what I mean? Always like real people. Always gravitate to real people. I don't like all these fluffy fake people. And I mean, he even admitted he was never in a gang. He wasn't affiliated with no gang. He just was in the neighborhood. And I have to give him kudos for that because a lot of dudes would have been like, oh, yeah, I was in the Crips or I was in the Bloods or whatever. He said he wasn't, you know. He was more of a player, you know what I mean? And I respect him for that. And a lot of that West Coast shit I did like. I have to say, though, Snoop, I honestly only liked his first album. I thought after that he got corny. I mean, honestly, that Doggy Style album is his best piece of work. I can listen to the whole album. But then after that, once he went with Master P, and then I don't know where he went after that. I don't know who he went with. But even when he reconnected with Dre, it wasn't the same. You know, I don't think he was all that after the Doggy Style. So in my book, even though Snoop, I mean, he made a couple of joints I like after that. Something, try to be a little creative and shit. But he just became more of like a, I don't know, like a puppet to white people. Like, oh, I know you know, like, he get on TV, oh, I know a gangster. I know a rapper gangster guy, you know. That's what I look at him as now. I don't really look at him as I don't have a word for Snoop, really. I like him, but then I don't like him. I used to really like him back then. Back when Doggy Style was out and a little after that, I did like him. But then he just became he just kind of crossed over after a while. And then, I don't know, there's just something about him that I feel like is kind of fake, you know. That's why I never gravitated to Biggie. Even though, yes, Biggie is up there, one of the greatest of all time. Yes, he is. He only had 2 albums. But yes, that dude was a lyricist. But I just never, I mean, I take Tupac over Biggie. Tupac had more of a body of work. He had more to talk about. I don't think his flow was better than Biggie. Biggie had a flow. You know what I mean? Like, I ain't gonna lie, some of his songs I really love. It's a good 4 or 5 songs that Biggie made that I really love. Some of that stuff he did with Junior Mafia, Lil' Kim, yes. But it was just something about him that I just never gravitated to him. I always was a Nas fan. On the West Coast, Ice Cube fan. I mean, it's a bunch of guys over. I like Too Short. When I was down south, I actually listened to Too Short a lot. I like Too Short. I never gravitated to E40, but I like E40 a little bit because he was creative. He had his own little style, and that goes back to what I've been saying in the other videos, that hip hop back in the day it just was too creative. Everything was creativity. Everybody had their own style. I mean, even the East Coast and the West Coast, even down south, Midwest, everybody had their own style, man. You know, you go up to Chicago with damn, I forgot the rapper's name, the one that can rap really fast. I forgot his name. Damn, it's gonna come to me in a minute. But I hate that. But anyway, everybody had their own style, man. West Coast had that smooth, you know what I mean, had that smooth kind of laid back rap. Then they also had that kind of in your face, police sirens in the background shit. Then the East Coast was more bob your head or head banging in your Jeep shit. You know what I mean? I mean, it's just, I'm riding with the East Coast, but I ain't gonna lie, there was a lot of West Coast music I loved. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I like Dre. Dr. Dre, he's the man. Gotta give it to him. It's just far more producers on the East Coast that I like. You know what I mean? It's way more. Eric Sermon, Large Professor, Diamond D, RZA, Pete Rock, Q-Tip. I mean, it's just, man, I could do like 20, what's the bull? Rock Wilder, Beat Nuts. Of course, DJ Premier, of course. LES. I mean, the list goes on, but the West Coast, it did have, you know, you really think about it. You know, I mean, obviously that's not, they sold more because of the controversy around Death Row. That's really what it was. You know what I mean? But I have a lot of love for Suge, because Suge took a lot of dudes off the street and made money through music. He did do that. He looked out for the hood. I mean, you gotta give him that. He reached back to the hood. Yes, I know a lot of people, everybody want to go right to the knucklehead stuff, but still, he went out there and did that. You know what I mean? A lot of black people don't do that. They don't do that. They don't go back to the hood and give back. They don't do that shit. There's a whole lot of footage of him and Tupac. They would go in the hood with these churches and stuff, and they would talk about starting programs in the hood and helping the poor and all that. Stuff like that's never shown. You can find it on YouTube, you know, just before Tupac died. But you gotta give it to him, man. You know what I mean? I always respected him for that. You know, because you gotta remember, at that time I was in my 20s, and I saw a lot of footage of him and Tupac. And Tupac always talking about giving back to the hood. You know what I mean? He was always talking about that. Always. You know, yes, they tactics was wrong, but their heart was right. You know what I mean? So that just made me love the West Coast even more. You know what I mean? But it's just way more music on the East Coast that I love. You know, so of course I'm gonna go with the East Coast. But the West Coast wasn't nothing to be, you know, like putting, you know, acting like they wasn't shit, because the West Coast had a lot of great music. You know what I mean? I even used to like Nate Dogg with his little hooks on the songs, you know? Man, there's a lot of them guys I like, man, you know? So yeah, so really like to hear what people got to say. Remember, this is Mr. Tony's Hip Hop School. Like and subscribe. Please comment below. Like to know what you like to hear about. Artists you like to hear about. I know about all of them. All of them. You know what I mean? East Coast and West Coast. Now it might have been some guys that might have been a one-hit wonder that I might not know about, but I mean, I even know about MC Breed. I know about Domino, MC8. You know what I mean? I didn't listen to a lot of MC8 music because I ain't really like the beats in his music. But I've listened to some of his music. You know what I mean? Sir Mix-a-Lot, even though Sir Mix-a-Lot was more, he was kind of commercial a little bit. You know what I mean? And I don't think he was really, he was, I mean, he had a couple of songs I liked, but he wasn't, I didn't take him serious. Let's just put it that way. I never took him serious, but he did have a couple of songs that I liked. I do remember Young MC, Tone Loc. Man, I'm hip hop, man. I know. I remember all that. I loved a lot of it. East Coast and West Coast. I'm actually glad I was down south a good amount of them years. So I got to hear everything. I got to hear down south. I got to hear Luke. I got to hear Ghetto Boys. I got to hear DJ Magic Mike in Florida. You know what I mean? MC Shy D. I remember all these dudes, liked a lot of their music. Like, I was a big DJ Magic Mike fan. Motherfuckers don't even know who I'm talking about. He was into that Miami bass shit. He was like a bass producer. DJ Magic Mike and MC Madness, I think his name was. I gotta look him up. I used to listen. I actually had their tape. Yes, cassette tape. I actually had a couple of their tapes. And I remember I had my car when I got back from Iraq in '92. I had bought a car just before I went over to the war. So came back, hooked my car up, and I put a box in the back of the car. So, you know, I'm into that DJ Magic Mike. I'm playing that bass, man. I loved him, man. I loved Luke too. Luke Skywalker. There was some good music back then, man. Plus Luke, man, he was going at the system. You know what I mean? He was going at the system, man. They was trying to like keep him from making his music and shit. And anybody else that was making music like him, and he overcame. So, you know, hip hop was the shit back then, man. Y'all, if you never heard or never listened to a lot of the people I've mentioned in a lot of the other videos I just made, then you need to look them up and listen to their music. You can pull all that stuff up and listen to it. And I meant to say earlier about a group when I was my video with about the groups. I forgot to say Black Moon. That was another group I really loved. Them and Lords of the Underground. I forgot to mention them. Love them, man. I just listened to them the other day. Matter of fact, Lords of the Underground. Here Come the Lords. That was my favorite song they made. But anyway, like, subscribe, share. Please let people know that there's a dude from Philly who's talking about old school hip hop, and he's talking about everybody, damn near everybody that's ever came out in hip hop, albums, producers, everything, groups, all that, unsung people that you never talk about. I want you to get on board, bring up some people. Let's share some music. Let's dialogue. Let's talk about it. Like, share, subscribe. Peace.